Okay, welcome to this session 5. So in this session, we are going to discuss on this 4 topics as class declaration, how it is done using C++ and how it is done in Java. And very first simple example we will discuss, and a few properties with respect to simple Java program, and the comments, how this will be used and what are the different types of comments in Java it's going to be. Fine. Hence, in this regard, so far, this is what we have already discussed in the session 1, session 2, session 3 and session 4. So at this point of time, so you know what is Java's magic and what is JDK is going to be, and what are the buzzwords Java is going to have as its own keywords, and the object-oriented programming, in what way it is different than the procedure-oriented programming or the process-oriented programming. So in this class, as I told, we will discuss upon these 4 topics. And so first of all, we will see what the class declaration is going to differentiate between C++ and Java program. So now just look at this two. Now whatever I have put the code here, this is C++ style. This is C++ style of declaring a class, and this is the Java style of declaring a class. Fine. So both are almost similar. Both are similar. There are few slight differences or modification what you want to do, the way what you are doing until now in C++ and what you are going to do with Java program. Fine. So now just look at what are the differences it is going to hold. Now, so the keyword and the tag, it is similar. Declaring a data member is similar, and now having a member function again is similar. So again declaring variable is also similar. So now in what sense it's going to make difference? The major difference here is, just look at this. By default, the data member is private without having any access specifier. Even the same in Java also. Fine. And if I want to make any member to be public, I'm just going to mention access specifier as public, and I'm going to use colon. So hereafter, whatever the data members or the member function is declared, all this becomes public. Now for example, if I'm going to have float behind, if I want to make it private, I need to use the private keyword with a colon. If I don't do this, then float B will also be a public data member. And this is what we already know with C++ program. But in the Java, that's not the case. For every member, you're not going to use public and a colon. For every member what you declare, you need to mention the access specifier. Now for example, the void set, I want it to be public. I cannot use this style now. I cannot use the public and a colon here. So without colon, before declaring a member, I'm going to put what is the access specifier of it. I'm not doing anything over here because by default it is a private data member. And now the get function also wants to be public for me. Hence I'm using public keyword before this member function. And so this two member becomes public. This is private now. Again, the float B, I want it to be private. Again, you cannot use this style using private and a colon. I want to use a private keyword followed by the data member or the member name. Now this becomes a private data member. This is the one major difference what you should observe before you're going to use the class in Java and what the class you are using C++. And the second major difference is that you're going to use a semicolon to say this is the end of the class declaration. This is the point where I'm saying I'm going to end the class declaration. But that is not the case in Java. I am not going to use any semicolon in the Java, either for the inner class or for the outer class or for any class. I am not going to specify end of class declaration. It is just a block of code for me right now. Hence, the second major difference what you should watch out for. So this is what I wanted to say about the class declaration using C++ style and a class declaration using Java style. So with this, now we will just discuss about a simple Java program. So this is the first program what we are or what I am trying to introduce to you. Hence we will call this as first simple Java program. So now before straight away, instead of saying how the Java program looks, I will just take you the step by step how the Java program should be constructed synthetically. Fine. So for that case, we all are aware that whatever the programming language is going to be, it is going to have a main function. Yes, even the Java program will also have a main function. And please make sure it's going to be the same characters. If it is lower, it should be lower. If it is upper, it should be upper. The main function should be the lowercase. As usual, what we were doing from the C program or C++ program, the same thing follows here. It's a function and pair of bracket. Return type is void. Open the main function body and close the main function body, and you can have any set of statements in between these two curly brackets of the main function body, as usual what we were doing until now. Hence, so now when this is going to be the main function, we know how to define this, and as I have discussed, I am going to define a class now, and at this point of time you are already aware of what is a class, what is data members, how to declare data members, and how to declare a class. And right now, if it was a C++, I would have used semicolon here. It is a Java program, hence I am not stating anything like I am ending a declaration of a class. Hence, I am not going to use any semicolon over here. Fine. Now this is a simple class. You can put any set of member functions over here or the data member over here. And I'm going to a main function. At this point of time, you might be clear with these two statements. So now, in the Java program, whenever going to take, so whatever the statements you are going to put, the statements should be inside the class. Remember this. It can be function declaration, it can be function call, a data variable declaration, accessing a data variable or a data member, object creation, or any sort of instruction in the form of statement. Any statement in your Java program should be inside the class only. Fine. Either you are going to declare a new class, or if you are putting any statement, the statement should be inside the class only. So this is not the case in C++ program, where the main function or any non-member function could have been outside the class, and the class should have contained only the member function what it wants to happen. But right now in Java, that's not the case. Even the main function cannot be outside the class. Hence, for that purpose, we are just going to make sure the main function will also be part of the class. Now observe what happens. Until now, the main function what we were discussing, it was the non-member function. It was never part of any class. But in Java program, compulsorily for sure, it should be part of any one class. Fine. That is what I am putting the main functions in the class. So as soon as I have done this, now as usual, the main function becomes an member function of the class example. Fine. So now this is going to be a member function, and if I carefully observe here, now this is going to be a private member function. Yes, this is going to be a private member function. So now if it is a private member function, as I have just told, any program should contain a main function, because yes, the execution will always start, or the starting point of any execution of a program is going to be from the main function. Hence, the execution even in Java program will start from the main function. It is going to be the starting point. Hence, the execution of the main function or the function call for the main will happen outside the class as usual. Hence, for this reason, we need to make this main function as a public function. If it is private function, you cannot call this function outside the class. That means you cannot start the execution of your Java program. Hence, for this reason, we are going to make the main function to be public. Hence, right now, I have made the member function to be public using Java style. Clear? So now we are going to have main function, which is a public member function. Now this can be accessed outside the class to start the execution of a Java program. So now observe one more thing carefully here. If it is a member function, then if I want to call a member function, I need the object of this class. So without the object of this class, I am not supposed to access any member of the class. Either this can be data member, or this can be member function, or it can be public member, or it can be private member. I need to have an object. I need to have a calling object so that I am going to access this member outside the class. Now even I don't have this. Now who is going to create an object for this? Because the execution will start from the main. That's the starting point. So where should I create the object? Should I create the object inside the main function, or should I create the object outside the main function or outside the class? I'm not clear, because outside the class we cannot do, because any statements, as I told, in Java program should be inside the class. And I cannot create an object inside the main, because to call a main function, I cannot put an object inside the main function itself. Hence, for this reason, now I need a mechanism, I need a technique here where a member function of a class should be called without a calling object. Is it possible? Yes. If you remember, there is something called as static data member. If the member function is static, then you can easily call the member function without a calling object, or even without a object. And for this reason, we are going to make the main member function as a static, and that is what we are going to have: public static void main. And this is the reason why most of the program, the Java program, if you may have came across, or if you see further, the main function will be always as public static void main. Fine. So now with this every program of Java will have at least one class. Inside that class, you will be having a main function. The main function should be public as well as static, and returns nothing. If you want, you can return. Right now I don't want to return anything. I'll keep it void. Apart from this, until now, whatever the main function of any C program you came across, it was taking 0 parameters. But now if you have a Java program, your main function should take 1 parameter, and it is going to be of the type string. It is similar to the type what I am going to have: integer, character, double, float, similar to primitive type. There is a class, an inbuilt class called as string. So I need to have an array. I need to have an array object for the class string. Hence, the string is a inbuilt class. For this string inbuilt class, I am declaring an array object called as args, or calls arguments. Right? So this is something to do with the command line argument. So I don't want to discuss what this command line argument is all about, and why this parameter is passing, and where I'm going to use this parameter. If you're building simple Java programs, so nowhere you see you're going to use this parameter. But if you go further with complicated applications of Java, or few good enough application of Java, at that point you will be seeing how to make use of this parameter. Right now we are not going to use this parameter. I am not going to discuss much about this. You may use this in your program, in the main function or not, but this should be the parameter of your main function. And this is a user defined variable. It can be of any name. It need not be always args. It can be any valid variable or identifier. Is it fine? And it should be an array of object for the class string. Now this is what the basic setup you need to make whenever you're going to have a simple Java program or any Java program. So now with this we will just try to put a statement inside this main function now. Now whenever I want to display something on a standard output device, that is the console or the monitor screen, what you call, we are going to use printf function in C program, or we are going to use cout in C++. Now those two are not available in this Java program. So there is a function called as print, which is going to take a string as a parameter, or this can print any type of value. It can print any type of value, which you will be seeing how to use this further. Hence the print is a function. Rather than calling this as function, this is going to be a member function. Remember, it is a member function. It is a member function of the class IOStream. Fine. I will tell you later what is IOStream is all about. But right now remember, so print is an inbuilt function which is a member function of the class IOStream. And by default, IOStream has got an object called as out. So I am going to use the object out dot operator and call the member function, because as we all know, whenever a member function should be called with a dot operator and a calling object, and this object is in turn, or it's the inner class of an system class or the mainstream class, and that is what we are going to have again a default object called as system. And this is the default object of an enclosing class dot the object of the inner class out, and this print function is the data member of the inner class, and this is how we are going to access the print function. Now whenever you want to print anything on the display device or the console as an output, you need to use this form, system.out.print, and whatever the message or data you want to print. It's fine. This is going to print a message on your console. So other than this print function, there's one more member function called as println. It is similar, almost everything is the only difference is these two characters what has been added up as the function name, that is ln. So ln stands for new line, or ln stands for line. So if I using this print function, it will just print welcome and the cursor will stay in the same line. If I use println function, welcome is printed and the cursor will immediately move to new line. Hence, if you want a new line after your output, use println. If you don't want a new line, I am going to print. It is similar to have print welcome /n. Instead of using /n, I am using println. Anyhow, you can use either print function or println function. Now this is what we are going to have the basic first simple Java program. When I execute this program, you need to get the output as welcome. Being in the same line, I am going to print the second welcome. If it was ln, I would have got these two welcomes in two different lines. Fine. So now with this function, now I am going to save this file. and the extension is going to be .java. It is something like, if I am going to have a C program, I was having the extension as .c. And if it is a C++ program, I was having extension of CPP. Similar to that, it's a Java program. Hence, I'm going to use the extension as Java program. And watch out, one more important thing. Until now, it was irrelevant. It was immaterial. In C and C++, the file name what you give. You can give any file name of your choice in C and C++ program, but that's not the case in Java. Very important, remember it carefully. So you cannot give the file name of the Java program the way you want. The restriction is going to be as such. The restriction is, now whatever the class name you're going to have, the file name should be of the same type. Hence, whichever the class in your Java program contains the main function as a member function, the file name should be of the same, even with the cases. If it is uppercase, it should be uppercase. If it is lower, it should be lower. Hence, Java is also a case sensitive program. Hence, whichever the class contains the main function as the member function, that same name should be the name of your Java program. This is not a coincidence, or this is not a rules. This is syntax. Fine, you need to follow this. Fine. Hence, remember this point. I will just tell you why do you need to do this. It is not just simple rule or just to maintain a good structure of the program. It has a good meaning technically. Fine. So now, as this one thing you should remember what the file name should be. Now, when I am going to talk about a complete Java program, or if I elaborate this program, a class can have an inner class, something called as XYZ, and I can have an outer class. This is the one outer class, or this is going to be a completely independent class now. Class demo. Hence, your program can have n number of classes in the form of inner classes or in the form of independent classes. But now, when you're giving the file name, you are not free enough to either decide to give this as the file name of the class example or class xyz.java or demo.java. You're not free to do this. You need to make sure the file name is going to be the same class, the class which contains the main function as a member function. Remember this carefully. I will tell you in few minutes why you need to do this. Fine. So once this is done, so now my complete Java program or simple Java program is complete with elaboration. So now when I've done this, I've saved the program with the example because the main function is in the example class with .java extension. Now once this is done, once the source code is ready, what's the next step? Yes, yeah, as usual we need to compile this. Fine. So we are going to compile this program, and as a result of Java compilation, what do we get? Yes, we are going to get an intermediate code which is called as bytecode. Fine. So where the bytecode will be interpreted by JVM to convert it to a machine code or a native code and for execution. But right now when I compile, I'm going to get a bytecode, if you remember this. And now when you want to do this, the command what I'm going to use is Java C. So Java C stands for compiler, is Java compiler, and the file name is example.java. Once I give this command, the Java compiler is going to kick off and it's going to compile the java.example.java as bytecode. Fine. So once I've got a bytecode, now I can start the execution using the JVM. Fine. So now once this is done, so before we discuss about JVM, now just observe one more thing here. So now when I say bytecode, it's not as simple as it is. Now just observe the compilation of the Java program and the bytecode from what I've got. You can just observe there are two files now. There are two files. There was only one file which I gave as a source code. After compilation, carefully observe here, there are two files. One file is with .class extension with the name example. This is because in this program, inside this program, there's a class called as example, hence example.class is created. and there is one more independent class. Observe carefully this independent class, hence demo.class is also created, and this class xyz is not an independent class, and so no class file is created for this. This is fine. Hence I am going to have example.class and I am going to have demo.class. I am going to have two classes here. And so now when I am going to have bytecode, remember, if I am going to have n independent classes, for all these classes the class file will be created in and is going to be compressed inside a bytecode. This is fine. Now when I'm going to give it for execution with the JVM, now JVM should start the execution, and the JVM, when it starts the execution should start from the main function, and where the main function is, it's in example class. Hence now which file should be taken up for the execution? Yes, it is example.class. Later on, if the demo class should be used or if it is called, then the JVM will take care of calling this file also. But right now, when it wants to start the execution, it should start from example class, because it doesn't know that, or it never knew that main method was in the example class. It is going to by default start the example class because the file name is example. So this is the reason why the file name should be the same as the class name which contains the main function. And so now the execution starts to convert into object code. So now this object code, when I want to call the JVM for this interpretation, we are going to use the command as java example.class, or simply you can say java example. Even if you don't use it as .class, this will still work for you. So hence I am using java C here, I am using java here. Now this is going to call the JVM, and the JVM is going to call the example.class object code or the bytecode for the execution. This is what exactly the execution of Java program is going to happen. And this is the reason behind why we need to have the source file name same as the class name. I hope you are clear enough with this. And once this is done, now this is going to be the source code as the input for the compilation, bytecode and the object code. And once I start the execution, and this is the output what I'm going to get. The welcome in the same line, I'm going to have welcome. Both the welcomes on the same line because of the print function. If it was println, I would have had welcome in the second line. This is what the first simple Java program should look like. I hope you're clear with this. So if you have any doubt, you can just make sure I'm going to have a discussion on that later on. Fine. So now once this is done, so we're going to see what are the properties of the Java program is going to be. The first property, as every Java or every program language does, Java is a case sensitive. Fine. So Java is going to be case sensitive one. And now just look at these points, what I have put the properties over here. So first property says source code name is immaterial for all the other programming languages. Fine. But for Java, it is not coincidence. It should be syntactically connected. Hence, it is a strong material for the Java program to have a correct Java file name. This is fine. This is what the first property says. The second property is, this is because source file is officially a compilation unit. When I compile the program, it is not just I'm looking at the source code. I am looking at the file name also, because every code what I am going to compile will be converted to classes. Hence, the source file is officially a compilation, or it's going to be part of the complete compilation. It is not just an input. It will stay as a complete process in the compilation. And as I have just told, all code of the Java program must reside inside the class only. Either the class what you define as a main member function or any other independent class, but make sure all the instructions will be inside the class only. With this, so Java compiler compiles class even without main function. Even if you don't have a main function inside the class, it is going to compile. It will never throw you an error. Fine. So whereas some other programs or some other programming languages, if the main function is missing, it's going to throw a syntax error. But Java is not going to do that. It is going to compile successfully. But if that's the case, so Java has no way to run the program now, because the program should start from the main function. Hence, there is no way where the Java program can be executed now. Hence, so if your Java program contains dozens of classes, that is, if it contains n number of classes as an intermediate class, any one class or only one class will need to have a main function. Make sure only one class out of this it's going to have main function. As I can say, it's not at least one class, exactly one class should have the main function. If multiple classes have multiple main function, it's of no use, because the main function with the class name and the function program name which is same, identical, only that main function will be called. Hence, this is what you need to know with the property of Java program. Next, so now there are few cases where in Java program I can still compile and execute the Java program without the main function, and that happens only in applets, the Java applets, which you're going to learn further. But right now, the Java applets, it is a different way of executing a program which is going to embed itself in an HTML file or a web browser execution. Hence, this is not going to make use of main function. This is the only time where a Java program can exist without a main function. If it is not an applet, make sure your Java program contains main function at least in the one class or exactly in the one class, and that one class name should be the same as the program name. This is what the few property of Java program you need to understand. So now with this, so now as you know, so we can give the commands in any programming language. Even in Java you can make use of commands to have the documentation for the document. Hence, I'm not going to much talk about what is commands with respect to programming language, but now I can say that Java supports three styles of commands. If I want to recap, the C program contains one style of command. C++ has got two style of command. Now Java contains three style of commands. Fine. And so now we'll see what these three styles are going to be: the multi-line command, the single line command, and a documentation command. So three types of or three styles of commands what you can use in Java program. If it is C program, you got only multi-line command. If it is a C++ program, you have got multi-line command as well as single line command. If it is Java, you have got all these three. Now what is multi-line command? Yes, you are already always aware of this. We're going to use slash and asterisk and put whatever you want and end with asterisk and a slash. And this is the starting of the comment. This is the ending of the comment. Whatever you put in between this is going to be comment, and which will not be the part of execution. During the compilation itself, it will be removed from the object code or a native code. And so as this multi-line command, I can start the command at one line and I can end the command at any number of line hereafter, either second line or third line, or the number of lines what you decide you're going to use for the comments. You can make use of this, and you're already aware of how to use this, so nothing much to speak more about this. And if I say single line command, we're going to use double slash, and this is the starting of the command, and end of the line will be the end of the command. Hence, whatever you put, this entire line will be a comment starting from this point. Until the end of line, it's going to be a comment. Hence, now you cannot use this for multiple line. So only a single line you can make it as a comment. Hence, we call this as a single line comment. And if you talk about documentation comment, it is similar to multi-line. I'm using one asterisk here. Now I'm going to use two asterisks here. If I'm using two asterisks, now this becomes a documentation comment, and this is similar to multi-line comment. The end of the comment is similar. The only is you need to add an additional character, additional asterisk character to indicate this is going to be documentation comment. And when I make this a documentation comment, whatever the comment you put between this start and end of the comment, all this will be stored in a document. That's called as Java doc. So in the Java doc, I can use it for URL purpose, or I can use it for as a link purpose, or there are n number of ways of making use of Java doc. So right now I don't want to discuss much about this Java doc. So you will come to understand what is Java doc on documentation comment in the further classes or as a part of advanced Java. Hence, so this is what the comments in Java is going to be, and then this is what I wanted to discuss in this session. And if you have any doubt, or if you need any clarification, you can just put your observation or your comment in the comment section of this video. Hence, thank you.